our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received on Tuesday the Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives, Aguila Saleh, and Commander-in-Chief of the Libyan Armed Forces, Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar. During the meeting, President el-Sisi asserted that Egypt would continue its coordinating effort with all the Libyan sides in the coming stage to guarantee the unity and coherence of the Libyan national institutions. The head of state stressed that such efforts would lead to the scheduled presidential and parliamentary elections by the end of the year. To shed more light on that, we are very much delighted to have with us over the phone Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ambassador Haridi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Ambassador Haridi, President el-Sisi yesterday met with the Libyan National Army Commander Khalifa Haftar and Parliament Speaker Aguila Saleh, reiterating the necessity of expelling the foreign forces and mercenaries from Libya. How far has the Libyan progressed in pushing out the mercenaries?
Well, not yet. As a matter of fact, this is one of the demands of the international community. And as stated and in the Security Council resolutions concerning the Libyan question. But so far, there is nothing concrete that has been adopted as far as this is concerned.
Yes.
That's why the international community, the United Nations, as well as Egypt, are insisting that the parliamentary elections take place next December. Once Libya has a government, after these fair and free elections, that would be one of the basic tasks of the new Libyan government to work with the United Nations for the withdrawal of all foreign forces, not only the withdrawal of foreign forces, but also dismantling of the militias in Libya.
Ambassador Haridi, they also agreed yesterday on sticking to the conclusion of the Berlin conference. How do you weigh the progress accomplished thus far in Libya since the Berlin gathering?
Well, of course, Libya has made some progress.
Yeah.
Ever since the first Berlin conference in January 2020.
Yeah.
And the two Security Council resolutions that have been adopted ever since.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are some obstacles, but it seems that the international community, neighboring countries, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt,
yes,
and the other and the Arab world are really backing the new provisional authority,
yes,
the National Unity Government, as well as the Presidential Council.
yes.
And as you said, Madam, the President received yesterday the Speaker of the Libyan Parliament, as well as the Field Marshal Haftar.
Yes.
And he would be receiving in the next few days the Prime Minister of Libya, of the National Unity Government, in the context of Egyptian efforts to help the Libyan political forces reach a consensus on the way forward. So, so we are working with the international community, with the United Nations Security Council, in order to facilitate the holding of the elections next December, Madam.
Indeed. Sir, the Berlin conference reiterated the need to end the smuggling of weapons and movement of mercenaries to the country. How far has the country succeeded in this point of weapon smuggling?
Well, so far, the arms embargo, as decreed by the Security Council resolution back in 2011, well, has not been respected by all governments.
Yes.
We know that there are some governments that keep providing weapons, that keep sending mercenaries to Libya. But I guess now the international consensus is that a new government, a new Libyan government after the elections would take care of these things.
Yeah. Sir, also President Sisi welcomed the steps taken by the African Union to hold a reconciliation conference among the Libyan factions, which is in coordination with Libya's neighbors. What are your thoughts on the role being undertaken by the African Union so far, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, in fact, the African Union with the Arab League and the European Union are coordinating and cooperating on the Libyan question.
Yes.
And this cooperation on the level of these regional organizations has been very helpful in providing support, sustained support for the Libyans moving forward. And of course, the African Union is very interested, very concerned about the situation in Libya. Of course, Libya, as you know, have joint borders with Chad, with Niger, and of course the international community is eager to help the Libyans fight terrorism and terrorist groups in southern Libya and any infiltration of terrorists from Libya to neighboring countries. So this is a major stake for the African Union as well as for Europe and the Arab world.
Yes. Sir, since the Berlin conference, how has Egypt decisively pressed for a solution to the Libyan crisis and supported a diplomatic solution there?
Well, Egypt, as a matter of fact, has been working in the context of the resolution or the declaration, the Berlin Declaration of January 2020.
Yes.
We are working, as I said earlier, we are working with our Arab, African, and international partners to really implement Security Council resolutions 2510, which had adopted the Berlin Declaration.
Indeed. Sir, Cairo has repeatedly hosted the Libyan sides to get them closer and succeeded in mediating a deal between the Libyans that produced a transitional presidential election and a prime minister as well as a president. What are your thoughts on this regard?
Well, of course, Libya is a neighboring country, and the insecurity and the instability that had reigned in Libya till last year impacted on Egyptian national security. So, of course, it's in our interest that Libya regains security and political stability, that Libya has a legitimate government recognized by the international community. So that and we are working, as a matter of fact, we are cooperating with the international community to achieve this goal. And of course, once the situation in Libya is stabilized, that would be a big plus for Egyptian national security.
Yes. How far are the preparations for holding the presidential and parliamentary elections in Libya by December 2021 is going, from your point of view, Ambassador Harit?
Well, they are working on, first of all, having a new election law. They are working, they are discussing the law, they are discussing the constitutional framework in which the elections will be held. There is some progress, but there are some differences of opinion between the Libyan National Parliament in the east and the State Council in Tripoli. But we hope that with the help of international powers and with the neighboring countries, the Libyan forces could come to an agreement on the constitutional framework of these elections.
Yes. In your opinion, Ambassador Haridi, what are the foundations for a political solution in Libya, and what should be the starting point for any political settlement there?
Well, the starting point is that we hold fair and free elections on December 24th.
Yes.
Next, so that Libya will finally, after 10 years or more than 10 years,
yes,
will have a government internationally recognized,
yeah,
and has enough legitimacy, political legitimacy, to operate or to operate this transition to democracy and bring to an end a decade of instability, of insecurity.
Indeed.
The starting point is, of course, establishing this government that reflects the free will of the Libyan people.
Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, many thanks, sir, for being with us and for your precious input. And moving on, still with Africa, where the World Health Organization said that the African continent has been left behind by the rest of the world on vaccination. The remarks came after talks with vaccine maker Moderna and South Africa were stalled on the replicating of the coronavirus vaccine. The WHO said that only 3% of African population has so far been vaccinated, leaving the continent at greater risk than the rest of the world.
Efforts to develop an African base for COVID-19 vaccine production will focus on trying to replicate Moderna's shot, but a lack of progress in talks with the U.S. company mean that the project will take time. The drive to produce vaccines in Africa is designed to help more developing countries access the COVID-19 shots after rich nations bought up most of this year's supply. Moderna said last October it would not enforce patents related to its shot during the pandemic. The case highlights the challenges faced by the WHO as it battles to expand vaccine production to help address the inequalities between rich and poor nations in the pandemic. More than 3/4 of 5.5 billion COVID-19 shots administered worldwide have gone to high and upper middle income countries, which make up just over a third of the world's population. Currently, only 3% of Africa is vaccinated, compared with more than half of the United States and 3/4 of Spain. Moderna's vaccine has been chosen as an abundance of public information, and its pledge not to enforce patents made the shot slightly easier to copy than some rivals. But even if the hub manages without Moderna's help, it could take more than a year to get a distributable vaccine, as clinical trials would only begin in the latter half of 2022. COVID-19 vaccine makers have warned that non-authorized producers would compete for vital raw materials and production gear that established players rely on.
Sack farming is the process of utilizing ordinary scrap sacks as a foundation for producing crops such as potatoes, carrots and spinach. By implementing sack farming in Kenya, food insecurity throughout the country has been showing progress in order to solve some of the country's main problems. Actually, all that is needed for this form of planting is the sack, manure, soil, small stones for drainage, and the desired seeds. More details with Nahla Ibrahim.
The need for having readily available fresh vegetables devoid of chemical impurities has pushed dwellers in urban areas in Kenya to create a remedy that is within their reach. Dominic Orina has made a name for himself for his successful sacks and container gardens that he started just at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. For this kind of garden, space is not a limitation since it uses the available spaces within the balcony or the verandas. The popularity of this kind of gardening is also based on the fact that the farmers use readily available sacks, plastic residues, and containers. To start this kind of farming, it does not need much because the materials that are being used to erect the garden are just byproducts.
Egypt's new football national team coach Carlos Quinich will be making his debut tomorrow at the event of the headquarters of the Egyptian Football Association and will be giving the statements to the press and media. Queiroz was chosen as the national team's new head, succeeding Houssam El Badri, who failed to improve the team's performance.
The Egyptian Football Association (EFA) announced that Portuguese Carlos Queiroz will be making his first appearance as head coach of the national team in the event on Thursday. According to the statement, the induction will take place at EFA's headquarters, with Queiroz set to hold his first press conference during his first training camp of the national team. The 68-year-old tactician was chosen as Egypt's new coach on September 8th, 2 days after the sacking of his predecessor Houssam El Badri. El Badri failed to improve the team's performance during his 2-year tenure at the helm of the national team, despite reaching the finals of the 2021 African Cup of Nations. Egypt have fallen to second place in their World Cup qualifying group with 4 points, 2 behind leaders Libya. Queiroz will be starting his mission with a crucial double-header against the North African neighbor in October.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. I hope you have enjoyed it. Until tomorrow with another crew, it's goodbye. Many thanks for watching.